Raymond Aloysius. Raymond Aloysius.
You got it.
Cuneen. Wait, what year did you retire?
1989.
Oh, you've had more experience in this than I had
8 years
at this point.
Okay.
We're going to talk a lot about that, but before
When did you retire?
I retired 92.
92. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still getting
rookie,
my legs.
right,
I'm a rookie still. Where did the Aloysius come from? I'm curious. I didn't know that was your middle name.
Let's see. My dad's name was William Aloysius Cuneen, and my oldest brother was William Aloysius Cuneen. And it was kind of traditional name as a family.
Yes.
I took that name with confirmation.
Did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where it came in. Before that, it was just Raymond.
How many brothers do you have?
I have 4 brothers. Yeah.
And they are.
And
In
the oldest is Bill, who's living now in Hampton Bays, and my other brother Jack, who's living in Coral Springs, Florida.
Who you just visited?
I just visited one of them. And I got another brother just moved, just sharing his time between Breezy Point, Brooklyn, and he bought a new house down in Venice. Lovely, beautiful.
Oh, on the
place.
West Coast.
On the West Coast, yeah, just a little south of Sarasota. I went down and visited him, which was great. And
Played a little golf.
played a little golf. Yeah, he's being introduced into the game. He joined the club down there. We went out and played a couple of days. And then went over to see my brother in Coral Springs. We played a little around there. We had a threesome, and actually could with another couple of brothers. We should have had a foursome, I don't know, but one was working, and the other one just came back from the cruise from the Caribbean.
Did you mention all of them? Did you?
Well, no, I really didn't. No. The 2 older than me, there's 2 younger than me. My youngest brother is Tom, who I visited. I have another brother that's still working. He's one of the working steps. He works with the Internal Revenue
I see.
Agency, and he's in the international branch. He does international accounts for things like the oil companies.
So you're in the middle somewhere.
I'm in the middle. Well, I'm third oldest. I have 2 sisters.
Two sisters.
2 sisters, yeah. One sister lives in Malvern. She's
And her name would be?
Maureen, and then I got another sister, Ann, that lives in Kitcher Lake, New Jersey.
Any other?
They're all younger.
Any other teachers, Ray?
In the family?
Yeah.
My wife.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, my wife.
Your wife, Mary.
Mary Frances. Mary Frances Boland Cuneen, as everybody refers to us, Mary Frances Boland. Every time, hey, where's Mary Frances Boland? What happened to Cuneen? But anyway, she's a teacher, and
But of your siblings, nobody went into teaching. You just
no.
Was Mary a teacher when you married her?
Yeah, she was.
Oh, so she was all right.
She was teaching in New York City, married. Then we started having our family, and she had to leave for a while. And
Yes.
later years, she went back.
Tell me about your family. Who does the family comprise now? In terms of
My family, yes,
your children.
my immediate family. I have 2 children. I have a son, Christopher Michael Cuneen. He's out in Colorado now, and hope not too much skiing. He's a good skier. He enjoys it. He's going to University of Colorado Boulder. In fact, just called last night for more money. No, but anyway, and I got a daughter, Kara, and then Kara and Cuneen. She's working. She works a little bit with a food. She does some sideline stuff with a food television program, and she also works with a camera.
Interesting.
What do they call it? Camera house, I think is the term. And they work with TV equipment. Yeah. She handles it, and right now she's got a little promotion. She's
Excellent.
issuing the cameras out for, actually, they had the cameras. I know they did Schindler's List the other night.
Yeah.
Saying she had rented the cameras out and use it, for film and for TV and all that. So
Now you've lived in the same place. I remember I was at your house many, many years ago.
I was born and raised in Queens, Laurelton, Queens. Then I moved to Valley Stream. That's when I first started teaching in Brentwood. I drove out from Valley Stream, and then I moved to get married, and then I moved to the Upper Manhattan for.
Did you?
Yeah, for a few months.
Uh-huh.
It was about 3 or 4 months, and then I got an apartment in Bay Shore, the Royal Gardens apartments. John Callan was my neighbor there. And
That had to be in the year. That had to be.
that'd be the year. That's no. I started teaching in '65 here, and then I was 1970 is when I married.
Okay.
In March, and actually the big problem was that following September. I said, "This is ridiculous. I can't be driving from the city out of Brentwood." So I gave it up, and I got an apartment, which was very reasonable, 2-bedroom apartment. Then I had my daughter, and she was not well when she was young.
So you live. Oh, so you when you were married and you started a family, you were living in an apartment.
Apartment in Bay Shore.
But I remember you own a house and you're down on the South Shore somewhere.
Right. In Islip. Yeah.
It's an Islip. Okay.
In Islip, yeah. Well, that house I bought almost immediately because we did have some plumbing. Had some problem with the heater over there. The boiler broke down, and the apartment was cold, and my daughter was having some problems when she was first born, so I had to get out of there. So I bought a house, and
you've been there ever since?
I've been there ever since.
Right.
1970, September 1st, I think.
Ray, you mentioned before when you came to Brentwood. How did you hear about Brentwood looking for teachers, and what brought you to Brentwood in the first place?
Gee, you're asking me a good question.
I don't know if you remember that, but if you can't answer
Went back.
if you can't answer that, you can answer this one.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to teach in the first place? What made you decide to?
I would say,
if you're the first in your family of your siblings.
Yeah, I tell you what, to be honest with you, I enjoyed history, and I thought that I would enjoy teaching it. I enjoyed young people, and I found that they were exhilarating, exciting, and they had a kind of a spark to them, and their genuine liveliness and all that. Sometimes it's misrepresented, right? But I looked for that, and I also was I was a basketball player, and I was interested in coaching, and I thought the opportunities would be good here. So
you must have heard about it from somebody.
So I'm not. You asked me a good question. At that particular time, I know I had applied to a number of different places, and out in this area, it was really expanding and growing. Brentwood considerably. And I heard that, I heard through somebody, now you asked me who it was, but that there were openings out here. So I came out, applied, and was interviewed.
Do you remember who interviewed you for the position, or whether?
I think it was a variety of people.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think Fred Weaver and Stan Yankowski.
Okay, was principal.
Yeah, there was a whole series of.
Now, you mentioned your interest in coaching. Did you ultimately do any coaching?
Yeah, in Brentwood. Yeah, I did a lot. Yeah, I did a lot. I initially coached over East Junior High for 3 years, and then I moved over and became assistant to Stan Kellner as JV coach at basketball here at the high school. Then later on, when Stan Kellner retired, there was an opening for the Sondling team. That time they had two different teams, Sondling and the Ross, and I was a coach of the Sondling team for I would say for about 4 years maybe. Yeah, 4 years I think. And then there was combining of the two schools together, Ross and Sondling, and I coached that for 3 years.
Yeah, some of the other districts felt that we had unfair competition,
right?
Because we had such a large pool of
kids
to draft.
We did.
Must have had some winning teams.
And we did very well. Yeah, I was very pleased. We won a couple of championships, league championships. And I think it was 3 of them, as a matter of fact, 3 championships, tied for one with North Bowland. We had good success. I enjoyed it. Especially with winning, it was fun. Losing was not too fun.
Other than that time, most of your time was in the classroom and teaching social studies.
Social studies, anywhere from 10th to the 12th grade, generally speaking, mixed up between global studies and American history, and just towards some economics.
Was there something, Ray, that was for you a high point in your career? Was there something that you remember as being of outstanding importance that just stands out, or not necessarily, doesn't have?
Well, I always got pleasure when I saw at the end of the year that the students did well on the Regents exam and stuff like that. Really, and that was exhilarating, and I was pleased to see some good percentages. Up in the 90s or low mid 90s. But I got to be honest with you, probably. From a emotional viewpoint, coaching and winning a championship, it was special. Really, from the everyday classroom activity.
Did at some point you decide to stop coaching, or did the nature of the opportunity change? Or
I was getting old, and it's kind of actually the combination between teaching classrooms and coaching, was
draining.
It was very draining, and actually, when at the end of the basketball season, would feel like I just lost half a job or a whole job. Because the time that was available for me,
I think people don't.
They don't realize. No, I'm sure they don't. It was fun and it was exciting, exhilarating. But I'll be honest with you, sometimes I'm getting up 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
Going all day teaching a class. Probably had 3-4 preps.
Yes.
They had social studies. You had papers to mark, lessons to make up. Interviews,
demand
extra help with kids. Sure. And then I had to leave, and then I had to check on the kids on the team, how they were doing in class, how they were behaving, discipline problems, and then I'd have to go to practice.
You must have had contact with parents as well.
Oh yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, sometimes it wasn't always pleasant. Some parents,
exactly, sure,
may not have been happy with the job I was doing, coaching and some decision making. They thought their child should be doing playing more or something like that. That was a bit of an annoyance. But to be honest with you, by the time you finish with practice, or that's a lot of times you'd have games. I'd have to go a game. You have to go and drive in a bus to the game.
Oh yes.
It'd be a night game, and then you come back. It'd be 10:30, 11 o'clock. Then you had to see that the kids were getting home all right, and getting a lift or some kind. By the time I get home, I was so so tight.
Now, from people who are coaching today are still doing the same thing.
I'm sure they are. Yeah, I know they are.
That a great many people don't realize just the drain that is.
Yeah, I mean, I would get home at 11:30 or something like that at night, and I have to have something to eat.
Yes.
Then I have to unwind and relax a little, and
get up and start.
And it would be maybe 2 o'clock before I go to bed.
Right. Wow.
Then I'm up at 6 o'clock, and then start all over again the next day. So I kind of got a little tired.
Your love of
very tired.
Sports though has been segued into golf now. You're a golf, so you still have.
Well, I'm an avid golfer. I wouldn't say I'm as good as I'd like to be.
No,
but I enjoy it, and it's good exercise, and the best thing about it gets me out, and it gets me to see some of my old friends and which I'm going to see later on after this interview.
Okay, fair enough.
If we get through it time.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned that you retired in the late 80s. What'd you say? 88?
89.
89.
Yeah.
Why, Ray?
To be honest with you?
Yeah. Why'd you retire?
Well, my health was not that good at that time. Yeah, I developed the diabetes, and I developed some constriction of the arteries of the heart, and at times I was uncomfortable in the classroom situations, were not always harmonious, obviously, and as a result, I thought between those feelings and a little angina at times, I thought it was time to retire. Probably the stress, and all that, and actually, honestly, was probably the right thing to do.
The thing is that more people that I've interviewed, the response is very similar to yours.
Is that true?
You know when it's time.
It was time.
And people who have health concerns, and I was one of those people.
Yeah.
And that went into my decision making as well. So I think that there is a thread that runs through many people's decisions, and so you're not that.
That's interesting. I thought that would be unusual.
Oh, not at all.
I said,
there is time.
Why am I going through this? I said, it's time to get some young blood here, and probably would relate and do better with the kids and all that, as a fact.
It's a difficult decision to make, but once you make the decision, it feels so good afterward having made it.
Catharsis, right?
Catharsis. So you taught for close to 30 years, I guess.
It was 30 years.
It was 30 years. And since you've retired, and as we said before, you've had more experience at this than I. How did you have a difficult time adjusting to retirement, or was it like a duck takes the water, as they say?
Well, as I mentioned before, my health
for a while
was bad. Then for a while, I had some problems. I had actually a couple of angioplasties. Then in '92 I had a bypass operation.
That's right. I remember.
Quadruple bypass. And since then, I felt much better, and my energy level is up. I felt I had something to fall back on. The golf was good because it certainly passes a lot of time on the golf course looking for balls. I'm very busy. I get a chance to walk in the woods a little bit looking for balls too. But and then I go down. I go skiing once in a while. I'm still able to ski a little bit.
God.
Well,
more than I do.
Well, I mean, as different pace than what I used to. I used to be quite a vigorous skier. Well, I thought I was anyway. That'll be disputed, I'm sure. But now I ski a little more comfortably and not as much and as long as I used to. But it's very pleasurable. It's enjoying. You're on the top of a mountain. You look out and you see. You just see the snow.
I'm going to do it on a virtual. I'm going to do it with some virtual headgear.
Right.
I think that's the closest.
Why don't you go for a ride, maybe, just to look at it? And it's just spectacular. I could just think of one particular scene. A couple of 3 years ago, we went out to Salt Lake City. We did a lot of skiing out there during Christmas with the family, the 2 kids, and it was just spectacular. We hit there's about eight ski areas within about a half hour, 45 minutes of Salt Lake, and we just hit all of them. One of them I remember was Sundance. It was called Robert Redford. Just spectacular. I mean, you get to the top of the mountain. I just looked out, and mountain peak after mountain peak, and the crest of snow, and it's just gorgeous. And who cares about skiing? I just enjoy that. They had a little lodge up there, and had my lunch. It's just marvelous. And Alta, Utah is another one, great one. As a matter of fact, in April we're going out to Colorado to see my son.
Great.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll squeeze in a little skiing. We're probably going to go to Breckenridge.
Was Mary?
Condo.
I know Breckenridge. Well, is Mary?
Yeah,
you do as well. Does Mary?
Hates with a passion.
All right. So we won't talk about that anymore.
She likes tennis.
Okay.
She's an avid tennis player. I used to play a lot of tennis. I haven't been playing too much lately. I had an unfortunate accident just after I retired playing tennis, and I tore my Achilles heel, and that was quite a problem. Yeah, excruciating.
Has it healed properly for you now?
Well, yeah, but
it's never the same as it was, right?
It's never been the same, and I'm just kind of leery to
You bet.
That something will happen again, or the other one will go. And actually, I had my foot in the cast for 6 months.
Ow!
That was no fun. No, particularly through the summer. I did it in late June, and then your leg in a cast is not an unpleasant experience. I found difficulty with it.
I want to ask you some questions about. You mentioned you lived in Manhattan for a while. You lived in Queens, and that ultimately came to Bayshore, and then bought your place out in Iceland. Do you remember? Do you have any recollections of what Brentwood was like when you first started teaching here? The community, the town. Do you have any images of what it was like? Because that would have been in, I guess the latter part of the 60s.
Mid-60s, 65. Well, it was very different than it is now, I'll say that much. The mixture of type of students was, it seemed like it was like 10% black students, and the rest were
a smaller number of minority students.
Much smaller number. Yeah. Mixed various Caucasian kids. It was kind of a low key. It was kind of more sleepy than it is now.
It wasn't much.
Yeah, it was more suburban type of community. Now it seems to be kind of more active, more.
Yeah, the pace has changed.
Pace has changed and everything. And then it's changed over the years, slowly but surely. Now, I'm not too sure what it is now. When I retired, it was probably about half and half, I would say, half minorities and half.
It's probably now, Brentwood is probably, without doubt, considered a minority school district. The minority populations are in the majority.
Yeah, I'm told it was something like 2/3 or something like that.
I really don't know what the numbers are, but in that sense, it has changed a lot. And as you say, I remember, as you do, the real suburban, almost rural nature of the community. Are you certified in social studies?
Social studies, right.
Okay, you didn't have any other areas?
No, thank God. Thank God.
Right, exactly.
I would have got moved out, I'm sure. So, the crunch time came when they started cutting back on teachers, unfortunately for some teachers, they thought that having like an English dual certification was a benefit.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, some of them got pushed into English rather.
Do you remember, Ray, any of the people who you worked with when you first came here that you maybe had friendships with that for one reason or another left over the years, that left an impact or an impression on your memory, some of the staff that you worked with in those early days?
Very early days?
Well, maybe even some of the people who you worked with in the early days that are still in
some of them are still teaching, yeah. I can think of a couple right now. John Callan, and I've always enjoyed his friendship over the years, and admired some of the qualities that he has. And we've been good friends over the years, as a matter of fact. Still are today. Frank Barley, Pat McCarthy, I remember in the early years. And yourself, I remember.
Yes.
The early years in friendship. Who else?
Those Friday afternoons.
Friday afternoons at the Thompson Station or something. Where
was the one down on the South Shore. Where I can't remember the name of it, but I know it was a watering hole.
Oh,
an Irish pub or something that we used to go into.
Well, not Lily Flanagan's.
No, that was can't think of it.
Halfpenny. That's me. That was down on Jackson Avenue. Yeah, I spent some time. Watching you people doing sociological studies, seeing how habits can get you in trouble. Thank God I control of myself. It was an experience.
Were there any other than your coaching experiences? Were you one of those people, like some of us got involved in projects, in pet projects or things? Did you have any other things that pulled you away from the classroom or got you involved with kids over the years?
Well, I was very usually in the summertime, I would coach at camp here. They have a basketball camp here. Stan Keller used to run it. I used to do that. And I used to go off to various camps around the country. Basketball, particularly one in Lutheran, I used to work on almost every summer. I would do that in the summer, coach kids there, and try to encourage some of them, like players, to go to some of these camps, which was difficult for them because they didn't have the money to do it. I'm not sure. You mean something out of the line?
No, that's perfect. That answers the question.
I would do that. When I was coaching the team, they usually were involved in the summer league or something like that, and so I had managed that, or get them involved, or go watch them play, stuff like that. Yeah.
When we started teaching, I came a few years before you did. I remember that we didn't have a union at that point. We had we had an organization.
Yeah.
Do you have any recollections for some of the early years of the organization of the union, or maybe some involvements with the BTA at the onset that you can share?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Initially, I was elected as a delegate a couple of years. Yeah, I did serve as a delegate, but it was difficult for me, especially with coaching.
Yes.
It took too much of my time, and I really couldn't get actively involved. And I was complimented that they, chose to elect me because I never ran.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I had to become. I had to become less involved in it because my time was limited. I mean, you still need some time for your family too.
For sure.
I mean, between the family and teaching, a regular schedule and coaching, it become heavy.
You were part of the organization though when we walked around the administration building.
Oh, sure. Oh yeah.
The picket signs.
Oh yeah. Oh, I did that well. I'm great walker. Yeah. No. As a matter of fact, you get mixed feelings about that. You do feel sometimes you may be a little pushy, but sometimes you really needed it for the other teachers and for the students and all that. There were times that you had to take a stand. And
well, I think that's what it comes down to.
And I think it was far better than going out on strike and stuff like that. Yeah,
we've never had to experience.
No, we never had that.
Thank God.
Thank God. Yeah. And in the early years, I remember of the BTA, we had some good leadership. Guy DiBiasio, I remember, there was one of them who was active and a leader. Dave Martz and them, I guess, Zuckerman, and so forth. There's a lot of good leaders that. And I'm not sure what year we did unionize.
I know
I guess around the 70s.
It was probably under Jack's watch sometime when he was in the leadership position.
I'm sure
it was.
Yeah. But you were right, though. I know in the beginning we didn't have it. But we had a pretty well-knit group, a pretty strong group.
Well,
even with our colonization.
It was a very cohesive
I mean, I think
organization.
I'm not sure that we were any less effective.
Absolutely not. No.
Getting what was needed for the students and for the teachers.
What do you miss most, Drake, about coming in? Now, I know, given putting all the stress aside and all of the reasons that.
I guess I miss the students, the kids, and then especially when things were going well and you had a good class. Great, you had nice rapport and a little, bantering back and forth with them. But I missed a lot of the colleagues, the teachers, particularly. Yeah. But I'll be honest with you, I hear most teachers say, well, they missed the colleague mainly, But there were times I missed not having the young kids around,
But there's an energy
level. Yeah, an energy level that
it can pick you up.
Yeah, it uplifts you.
Really does.
So I've lost that, but I don't know. At this particular point, I'm satisfied.
I want to go way back now and ask you a question from out of left field. What's your earliest memory as a child?
That's a
one of the earliest memories that you can go back to as a child.
I'm trying to remember. I do remember sitting in that high chair, banging with my spoon for more food.
Do you? No, you
No, I
don't. Okay.
I remember coming out of the womb. My sister-in-law remembers that, but that experience.
Well, I take.
No, I'd be honest with you.
Was this?
It's all kind of vague.
Okay, it's all vague. Was this? This was in Queens.
You're talking about 66 years ago.
Okay, when were you born, Ray?
August 29th, 1930. Yeah.
1930.
A long time ago.
Okay.
But
Yes,
you have general
talking about.
I remember, playing ball, being with the family back in my old house,
which would have been in Queens.
We're in big Queens, in Laurelton, Queens. Yeah, I do have some memories about that. Most of them pleasant.
That's great.
I think about.
That's great. Well, you said you were just the third from the oldest, so you were right. You were a middle child. That has had to have.
There were a lot
on your life.
I think there are a lot of stories I'd rather not get into.
Yes.
If my family looks at this, they'll remember Uncle Ray. Uncle Ray did this or did that or Ray did that. Yeah. But,
were you full of piss and vinegar?
Yes, I was. I'm just thinking of that.
Yes.
We had a house. It was kind of connected house, and we used to play follow the leader, and I just used to climb right with the wall of the house, over the house, and down the other side. I always won the game. No one could follow me. I just ended the game right there all the time. I was a tree climber. I'd swing from tree to tree like Tarzan. Really, I did do stuff like that. I remember I do remember when I was a little. I was probably about 2 or 3. My mother put me out in the backyard and tied me to the line. Tied a string to my son's suit and said that would keep me under control for a while. Lo and behold, she comes out a half hour later, the sun's suit swinging from the line. She finds me at the next block, sitting in a puddle, playing, clapping the water.
Don't put your ties on me.
No, big recollection.
I can still have that as part of your personality. That's
it shows a little thing.
Great.
Yeah.
What was your dad like?
My dad, well, he was a New York City policeman. He was a lieutenant, a police sergeant of a detective squad, and in Brooklyn, 770 precinct, and he also worked 101 down in Far Rockaway. He was kind of a laid back type of guy, you know.
I was going to guess.
Yeah, a little bit, but you got his anger up, you were in trouble. I can remember the old belt snapping when we get to sleep early enough upstairs, and then I think he snapped the belt, and that's everybody's business now. They go to sleep, and he'd come after us. Yeah, he could be stern at times, you know, if his ire got up. And, yes. He was very easygoing. I'd have to say that. Well, actually, I do remember a trip that Nancy mentioned back in 1941 that he took us to Florida. I remember when we were a young kid. Yeah, he and his brother, who was a priest, that he took us down to Florida, took us down the East Coast, came back up the West Coast, and up through the Blue Ridge Mountains and all that stuff. And there was a lot of things that developed in there that I should not talk about.
This is your uncle.
My uncle and my father
is a priest.
I remember I had a way of annoying them, and it was hot in the car. I'd strip down, and I'd be sitting in the back of the car making commentary announcements and everything I saw. I drove them absolutely nuts everywhere. I said, "Will you shut up? Will you shut up?" Then I don't know. We'd fight over something, and we got with my other brothers. Actually, I was there with my three brothers.
Oh boy!
No, actually, it was only two. I think my older brother Bill, Jack, and myself. My youngest brother was in diapers at that time. We couldn't trust him. So we left him at home. That was Jim. But I remember getting in a couple of fights with my brothers, and then they said, and getting yelled at by my uncle, and I said, "Let me off, get me up." Somewhere in South Carolina, I stepped out of the car, started to walk home. I'm walking over. I was 11 years.
That's terrific. Yes.
Was it 10 years? 10 years. I the age at the time.
Oh.
And then
wonderful.
They couldn't find me. No, they couldn't find me for a while. It was so wonderful. Maybe it was. Maybe it was that they couldn't find me. But I remember they finally said, "I'm going to walk. I'll get there." Probably be just getting there now, I guess. But they finally.
Tell me about your mother. What kind of a lady was she? What kind of a person was she? What are the qualities that she had?
She was a very, very, very sweet woman. She was very generous. She really couldn't do enough for you. Actually, it's always alleged that I was her favorite. You know,
is that right?
There's no truth to it all.
It's
absolutely. But I always got my way, and I was pampered, and anything I needed or wanted, I would get.
Well, you must have a sense of humor even then. I mean, you must have had a sense.
Well, I don't know what,
because that sense of humor that you
maybe that was it.
It must have.
Yeah, but she
pushed the right buttons anyway.
But she was terrific to me. I mean, to be honest with you, maybe I was her favorite. Because I never had any difficty with her. You know.
But your mom was she was a full-time.
Well, not all the time.
No.
Not all the time. In the early years, and then the war started, World War II, and she went out into the defense industry like a lot of women did.
Yes,
she worked for Republic Aviation. She was a riveter. Hence, she's a nickname Rosie the Riveter.
Yes, that's right.
But she would be out in the defense plant and be working on putting planes together and riveting the rivets together, and she did that through the war years, and when the war was over, she stayed out working in the field. Actually, not in that particular field. She went work with Pan American Airlines. Actually, she was a telephone operator before she got married. So she had skills in that area. So she was the telephone operator for Pan Am for many years until till actually, till almost till they disbanded, you know. Well, no, actually, I think she left before that because they had cut back. But yeah, and she was a housewife and a mother. She had 7 children.
7 children. Your father was a policeman, so he was not drafted because that was an essential.
I think he had 7 children.
And he had 7 children.
Right, at that time, sure. He had at least 5, I guess, 4 or 5.
My father would have been in the same category.
Yeah, he was.
As he was at that point.
He always says he said he always tried to re-up,
Really?
try to join, but they wouldn't get it. I don't know.
He always said that.
He always said that. It sounded good.
Right.
But I don't think they would even take him.
Were
I remember he was, by 41, he had at least 5 children. You know?
Yeah. He put in.
No, as a matter of fact, he had 7. He had 7 of them.
Did he stay in longer than his 20 years?
His brother was 39. He stayed, police spot?
Police department?
No, way after that.
He stayed in
way after. And at that time, as a matter of fact, I don't think they had. Well, he could have retired.
He could have, but he was.
But he stayed on.
Yeah, okay.
He must have been about 35, 40 years. 40 years he was a full policeman.
Okay.
Then he retired. I would say, yeah. Well, we were a big police family.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, is that?
My brother Bill is a policeman.
Oh, I see.
My oldest brother.
So
he's retired.
The tradition continues.
Oh yeah, and his son, as a matter of fact, is a policeman.
Okay.
Stephen, he's a policeman in West.
Where's the name Cuneen from, Ray? Where does that? It's Irish.
Well, I was in. Yeah, it's Irish. Yeah.
What part of Ireland is it?
Actually, Cuneen. If you talk to Irish, and even if you talk to some Scandinavians, they say there's a word Cuneen in Scandinavian that means rabbit. All right, and Irish Cuneen, and I did look it up. I was in Ireland for 5 weeks 2 years ago, and we looked up to see where the derivation was. Yeah. It seemed that we always thought it part of our family came from Limerick, the city of Limerick,
yes,
in County Limerick. But apparently, from what the information I got there, they originate from county of Offaly, which is just northeast of Limerick, and many of them settled into Clare and some into Limerick. And actually, I had some distant cousins that owned farms over there in Limerick. As a matter of fact, they since have sold those, and they're out of business there. I think they sold to Wank Laboratories.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And actually, the site now where some of their farm was in the University of Limerick.
Oh, they really got a big university.
So it's really, it's an Irish family, but it goes back to my grandparents. My mother and father were born. My father was born downtown New York, Battery. Was he born in Brooklyn? Yeah. And I was born in Brooklyn.
Were his parents, your father's parents, immigrants then? Was that the generation that came here?
Yeah, the Cuneens, yeah.
And they came from...
There were 2 Cuneen boys that married 2 Murphy girls.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, they married...
and they were from...
They came...
settled in the lower part?
They came from Limerick, and my grandfather was the carter, garbage collector.
Yes.
For businesses, carting, not ordinary garbage. Right. But he did that, and he ran a stable, as a matter of fact. And I remember he didn't have a finger when I was with when a horse bit it off. He said, stay away from those horses. You don't know what they're going to do. Feeding him sugar or something like that. But, they was downtown New York, the Battery. They lived down there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What was the first school that you attended in
elementary school at St. Mary Magdalene in Springfield Gardens, Queens.
Oh, geez, I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of those nuns that you had? Many?
I remember their strength of their arms as they taught me valuable lessons.
Yes.
The back of my legs, on my backside. I was a little bit uncooperative, is a word.
Spunky.
Yes. I didn't always get my assignments on time. So that's how it was handled. I do remember them very well. Yes. We had classrooms, I remember the classrooms, about 50 kids in it.
I had
A class and B class.
I had an enjoyable evening. My wife and I saw Midnight Catechism about a week ago, and at Hostritz, and playing in off-Broadway in the city. And if you want to laugh till your side hurts.
Midnight Catechism.
Oh, it was like being back in that.
I heard
Sister Mary and Athelette again. Listening to going through it. Yeah.
Oh, I do remember some of those.
Do you remember
Some of those names very well.
Yes.
You remember me? I'm sure if they're still alive.
Yes, I'm sure. Do you have any memories of any of the high school teachers you had? Any people that you had as teachers that you either maintained a relationship with, or you have
High school
retained a place for them in your memory?
Well,
Your favorite subject was
the only
in high school, right?
I would say history. Yeah, history. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I would say probably the one that had most impact on me was probably my high school basketball coach,
Okay.
Lou Grumman. He was kind of a legend in Queens basketball coaching, and he was very strongly disciplined and man that believed in in control of his players and his team and all that kind of stuff. And I do have a lot of fun. I remember.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you this before, and it slipped away from me.
Yeah.
And that's about other than your parents, an adult that had a significant impact on your life when you were very young. Was there some other adult, either an uncle or a neighbor or somebody that you remember that had either taken a shine to you or that you looked up to
Well,
okay.
It's hard to answer.
Yeah.
Collectively, I exposed to a lot of people. I can't say there was particularly one that had a striking influence on me.
Okay.
I mean, really.
All right.
I do remember fond memories of my grandfather, who actually was that's where I got my name from. Raymond. Actually, Raymond Nail was his name. He was my step grandfather, really. And I do remember, going away vacations with him, going into his house and to stay sometimes. He'd take me to Ebbets Field and the ball games. Very fun, man. Although I was a Giants fan, but I enjoyed it. Yeah. But I do have good memories about that. I remember going up in the Catskills mountains with my grandfather.
This would have been in the late 30s or 40s?
Late 30s, yeah.
30s.
I would say late 30s, yeah.
Wonderful.
And having some great experiences with him and then the family up there. Matter of fact, we used to go stay on a farm,
You did. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Up near what they call a Hell's Kitchen, I think it's not Hell's Kitchen, Devil's Kitchen or something like that up there. That guy's, yeah. Well, yeah.
Where did you do your college? Where did you go to school?
I went to school at Hofstra.
Uh-huh.
I initially started out.
Graduate and undergraduate work there?
Yeah, I was graduate and undergraduate. Initially, I started out to.
Oh, we have that in common too. See that?
Yeah, you went there too, right? Yeah. I started out. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I was, a basketball player. Then I had a basketball scholarship. I had a GI Bill from the Korean War. I was in Korea, and it afforded me an opportunity to go to college. I'm not too sure I would have ever gone without the GI.
Were you drafted to go to Korea?
Yes, I was drafted. Yeah, I was drafted in 1951. Spent a year and a half in Korea. As a matter of fact,
Lessons learned in Korea.
I worked in the prison of war camp. As a matter of fact, I spent much of the time as a commandant in charge of prison of war. So actually, North Korean and some South Korean prisons of war. Then I worked at Kojido, which was a camp where the prisoners, there were 180,000 prisoners there, and actually that was a year and a half there, and then the war ended. Actually, the war ended, and right after the war ended, they started sending a lot of people, back.
Yes.
And I got out in, I guess it was September, October of 53, just after the war was over. And then I worked at Republic Aviation, and I worked as a mechanic for a while, yeah. Then I was offered an opportunity to try out for a basketball team at Hofstra, and we had tryouts in those days. I tried out. I did well enough that they were interested in me, and I had the GI Bill for me. They give me monthly. It was $125 or something like that. Then I had a scholarship. Then they gave me a scholarship. So it worked out very well for me. At that time, I was able to go to school because I don't think my parents had the money to send me there.
Right.
And in the beginning, I started out business and economics, and then I felt after a couple of years, actually in the third year, I decided that at the end of the third year, I decided that I was going to take some courses that allowed me to teach. So I started taking education courses and prepare myself to be certified teacher.
So this was a decision that you
that I made later on. Yeah,
much, yeah.
I didn't initially plan, which is not uncommon.
No, it's not uncommon.
Most people. Who knows for certain what you want to do? But
you don't know. They'll tell you it'll be 3 years before you make your mind up. Anyway.
Oh yes. So
I wondered whether it was one professor or one person who had crossed your path that had an impact on your going that way. But you just then evolved that.
I just evolved slowly. I mean, there were some good professors. I remember Marcus. I remember one of them in the history. Another way I remember he was excellent, dynamic. Harvey 11. He was an economics teacher. Yeah, he was very good, and I was impressed by them. I'm not too sure they inspired me anywhere.
Okay.
In regard to becoming a teacher. I just later on decided that I didn't think I wanted to go into business. It wasn't for me. A 9-to-5 job routine, and I just didn't think that it was mine. The kind of pushiness that's involved in business. It wasn't my cup of tea. And I said, well, I like kids, I like history, I like coaching. I can combine all that into things go into teaching. So anyway, actually, with rather junior year, I shifted over to education.
Do you see any of the people you used to have as students? Do you see any of them, or do they? Anybody keep in contact, or do you keep in contact?
Well, yeah, I run into them. Every once in a while. Yeah. I'm not particularly keeping contact with them. Actually, as a matter of fact, recently I've enjoyed Marty Riga has a kind of reunion game.
Or does he?
Yeah. At the end of the season, he had one. Was it early February, where he invites all the old players back.
Really?
Yes, the old coaches, and they play a game.
Oh, it's right at the school.
Guys go over in this online show.
Oh, that's a wonderful idea.
He does it, and then he has a little buffet after it, and invites the mothers. I think it's what he does is terrific. Usually, a lot of times, this year he didn't do it. Because I'm not too sure of the server, but he invites the mothers to the game, and then he gives them flowers. And
isn't that nice?
And he congratulates them because they make great sacrifice for the kids. Cooking late for them, picking them up, taking them. And I think that's wonderful. He doesn't. He invites them to a little get together. The old players, the current players, and the mothers were there, and it was very nice. And just it's very pleasant. If I can make it, I try to make it.
Now, since you retired, I'm saying something that I already know, that you've maintained your connection with your colleagues because you belong to retiree organization.
Yeah, but the retiree organization is one, but two. A lot of times I will go going to the meeting because I have a golf date or something like that. Which is what affords me an opportunity to to see some old colleagues of mine, and we get together. As a matter of fact, I got one coming up real soon now.
We're gonna cut this really short, but what I wanted to do is, before we go, Ray, I want to ask you a couple of things. First of all, is there anything that we should have talked about, or that you'd like to make sure that we talk about before we leave, if we've forgotten anything?
I don't know. You covered quite a bit.
We were all over the
ballpark. I didn't know what you had in mind. But
how do you want to
think specifically?
How do you want to be remembered?
That's not something I give a lot of thought to.
You give it 30 seconds with the thought.
I hope the
people who have had.
I hope for not for a while.
The people who have had you over the years.
Yeah.
Cuneen.
Yeah.
How would you like to see them remember you?
I guess a good guy, a nice person. With a good sense of humor and really easygoing, nice to get along with.
That's a
I mean, that's the way I see it. I mean, I would like that. That would be nice to be thought that way.
Not like Sister Mary Del.
No, I didn't have any. I didn't have any rulers or. Well,
besides, the rules had changed.
Yeah, there was a little
30
bit
years in between. That's now considered abusive. We don't do that stuff.
No,
We don't.
not that it was ever done.
Not that was. Of course not. Ray, thank you.
Okay.
So much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it.
Hope it was good for you.
Stay.